Hello, my name is Michael, and this is the fifth and final part of the mean stack RESTful API tutorial. In part 4, we learned how to make get and post requests to get data from and post data to our MongoDB database. Now we're going to learn how to delete and modify data from the database. And by the end of this video, we'll be finished with our contact list app, and we'll be able to play around with tweaking it however we want. So let's get started now. Step number 35. Let's add remove buttons next to our contacts. So to do this, let's go to our index.html file and add this new code right underneath our contact cells. So index.html. Right underneath here, let's add a new column. It's going to be TD, and we're going to make button. We're going to make this class BTN danger, which will make it a red color from Bootstrap. And it'll be ng click. And the function that we're going to call with this will be just remove. And we want to have an argument passed to this remove function. Let's have the argument be the contact ID, so the ID that MongoDB gives to each of our contacts. So we're going to type in contact dot, and the code for that is underscore ID. So it's going to identify which contact we want to remove with this code right here. Let's close that. And then let's have the button say remove. And then close the tag there. So now let's test our code by refreshing our browser. And now we should see red buttons show up next to each of our contacts. They don't do anything yet, but we're going to get to that soon. Step number 36. We're going to now define and test the remove function. So in our controller.js file, let's define and test the remove function by typing this code underneath the scope.addContact function. So controller.js. Underneath the one that we just did, let's type in $scope.remove equals function. We're going to pass into it the ID of the contact we want to remove, bracket, semicolon. Let's just type in console.log ID. And so this will send to the console the ID of the contact that we want to remove. So to test our code, let's just refresh our server, click on remove for one of our names, and we see the ID down here. So 54B, whatever. If we click on different contacts, all of the different IDs will show up, which means that our code is working correctly. So that's good news. So now, step number 37, let's send the http.delete request to the server, and then let's just test to make sure that it's received. So below the console log line, let's write this code right here. It's going to be $http.delete parentheses / contact list, and it's going to be a specific URL. We want to send the specific contact that we want to delete, so it's going to be plus ID. That's the purpose of the ID in the function. We want to be able to send the URL of the ID that we want to delete. And so now, in our server.js file, underneath the app.post section, let's write this code. So underneath this thing that we just did, let's type in app.delete parentheses / contact. And the way that we choose a contact delete from this URL is it's going to actually be colon ID, because you see that's within the quotation mark. So to let it know that it's not part of the string, we're going to use a colon there. And then function request response, and we're going to make a new variable called ID, and ID will be request params.id. This will basically get the value of the ID from the URL. We're just going to make that into a variable called ID. And then let's just do console.log ID. So that'll print the ID to the console in the command prompt. And so now let's test our code by restarting our server, refreshing our browser, and then clicking on one of the remove buttons. So let's type in node server. Make sure that we've saved our work, otherwise it won't show up. Let's press F5 to restart our browser, and then let's click on one of the remove buttons. There we go. We see the ID show up in the console log, both in the command prompt and in the browser. And if we do different names, we'll see the individual IDs show up. So that means that the server is receiving the ID that the controller is sending to it. Step number 38. Let's now delete the contact from the MongoDB database. So to delete the contact from the MongoDB database, let's write this code underneath the console.log line in our server right here. Let's type in db.contactlist remove parentheses squiggly bracket, and we're going to identify the contact we want to remove by saying we want to choose the property ID. The ID will be, this is a MongoJS code, so MongoJS.object ID, ID, and this ID refers to the variable that we set up here. And so this will choose which contact we want to remove. And then after the squiggly bracket, we're going to write function error doc. That'll refer to the item that we're removing. And then down here, this is respond JSON doc. So we're going to send back the item that we're removing back to the controller. And then to immediately refresh the browser page after the remove button is clicked, in our controller.js file, let's add this code right after the $http.delete line. Let's type in success function response, brackets there, and then semicolon. So let's just type in our refresh function right here. And now to test our code, let's save our work. Let's refresh our browser, reload our, type in node server, refresh our browser, and let's click on one of the remove buttons. We'll see that Tom has disappeared, Tracy has disappeared, Tucker has disappeared. So our code is working. We've now successfully enabled deleting contacts from our contact list. Step number 39. We're going to now do our final request, which is going to be a put request, which will modify the data in our table. So first, let's add edit buttons and an update button to our index.html layout. So we're going to set up our HTML layout for put requests, which will allow us to edit and update the contacts in our list. To do this, let's first add edit buttons next to our remove buttons by adding this code just underneath the code for the remove button. So in our index.html, underneath the remove button, let's type this code right here. TD, I'm going to add a new column, TD, and then button class. We're going to have this button class be btn warning, which will be an orange color from Bootstrap. This will be ng click equals edit parentheses, and the button will be called edit. Oh, and also in our edit button here, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the delete button. So we're going to have contact.id. So that'll be the contact that we want to edit or to put into the box. And now let's add an update button next to the add contact button by adding this code just underneath the code for the add contact button. So underneath this code, let's write in td button class equals, we'll keep it as, we'll make this btn info. That's a lighter blue color, which looks kind of nice. ng click will be update, and let's name this button update, and then close the tag there. And also, since we've added an extra column below, let's add this code right underneath the th lines. This will just make an extra column in the table header, and this will just be a blank space just to keep the formatting right. So now let's check our code by refreshing our browser, and we should now see these buttons show up in our browser. I'm going to make this bigger to see better, so F5. So now we can see the edit and the update buttons here, and they don't do anything yet, obviously. But we're going to do that now. Step number 40, we're going to now define the edit function, which will select the contact that we want to edit and put it into the input boxes at the top. To do this, we're going to first use a GET request for the specific contact that we want to edit. So in our controller.js file, let's write this code underneath the scope.remove function. So let's type in scope.edit equals function, and we're going to pass into it the ID of the contact that we want to edit, and a semicolon there. And the code here will be console.log ID just to test it, and then we're going to write down here http.get, and same thing as before, we're going to have contact list plus the ID, so that'll be the URL of the specific contact that we want to edit. And I forgot to put a slash here, so that's important. So we're not going to test this code yet because we've done that before. For now, let's just go back to our server.js file, and let's type this code to respond to the GET request that we just sent from the controller. So underneath here, let's write app.get, parentheses, contact list, :id, function, request, response, semicolon. Do the same thing as before. We're going to do var id equals request params.id. Underneath here, let's print to the console log the ID. And then let's just type down here, since we've done this kind of before, we're just going to type db.contactlist.find1. That's going to be the code to find one specific contact from the database. The same thing as before. The ID will be mongo.js or mongo.js.object ID, and then the function, we're going to send back the doc or the item again. So error doc, and then we're just going to respond with a JSON of that doc right there. So this code will test our code as well as send back all the data for the contact that we requested back to the controller. So next, in our controller, let's add this code after the http.get line. It will be the response that we received. So let's type in .success function response. And then we're going to respond by putting the response into the contact boxes. So we're going to type in scope.contact equals response. So this will put the response into the input boxes that have the contact ng model, which you can see right here. They have ng model is contact dot each of these, so that'll put the respective properties into these boxes right there. So now let's test our code by restarting our server. Control C, node server. Let's refresh our browser, F5. Let's click on one of the edit buttons. And now sure enough, we should see the contact that we selected show up in the input boxes at the top, which means that our code is working. Step number 41. We're going to now define the update function in our controller. So now we want to be able to update the information for the contact we've selected that got put in the input boxes. To do this, let's first write this code in our controller file. So let's type this underneath the edit one. Be $scope.update equals function, and then close the bracket there. And we're going to write console.log scope.contact.id. So this will put the ID of the contact in the input boxes into our console. So let's test this code by refreshing our browser, clicking on edit, and then clicking on update. And sure enough, the ID of the contact that I selected showed up in the console. So that is working there. Step number 42, we're going to now use a put request to send the data to the server to be updated. So now underneath the console log line, let's write this code. Let's write $HTTP. So $HTTP.put slash contact list slash plus scope.contact.id. That's the URL of the contact in the box. And then we're going to put a comma there, and we're going to send to the server scope.contact. So everything that's in the boxes labeled contact here, so these contact.name, email, number, those will be sent to the server now. And so now in our server.js file, let's add this code underneath our most recent app.get section. So underneath here, let's type app.put parentheses slash contact list slash :id this time. Function request response, squiggly brackets, semicolon. And then I'm going to write var id equals request params.id again. This time, I'm going to print to the console not the ID. Let's try printing request body.name. So let's try printing the name to the console just to do something a little different to make sure that it's working. So now let's test our code by restarting our server with Control-C. Go back to our server. Let's refresh our browser. Select edit. Now let's just change Sally to, Sally 222 or something. Let's click update. And sure enough, Sally 222 shows up in the command prompt window, which means that our code is working. Now, in our server.js file, we're going to add this code underneath the console log line to officially update and modify the contact. This is going to be a lot of code, so be very careful about the syntax and the punctuation marks. Let me make this bigger so we can see it better. So I'm going to type db.contactlist.find and modify. And let's start with, I'm going to put that down there. Let's start with query. So that's going to be the contact ID. And so let's write ID : MongoJS .object ID, pass it ID. So that selects the contact that we want to modify. So now let's go down one. Let's type in, this one will be update. So this will be the updates that we want to set for this contact that we selected up here. And so it needs to have a colon there. And so we want to set the name. Oops, this will be in brackets there. We're going to set the name as request.body.name. We're going to set the email as request.body.email. Let's set the number as request.body.number. And let's close those brackets there. Let's put another comma there. And then underneath here, we're going to write new. This is going to be a new update, true. And then we will close the bracket there. So now that find and modify bracket is closed, we're going to put a comma here. And then let's write function error doc. So this will be the doc that has been updated. Then let's create this function here where we're just going to respond with a JSON of the doc that we updated. And I think we don't need that we just need a parentheses there. I'll test it in a little bit. So now let's go back to our controller.js file and tell the update function to refresh the page after the update button is clicked. To do this, let's add this code right after the http.put line. We're going to write .success function response. We're going to add a new function here. It's going to be the refresh one, and then close that. So now let's test our code by making sure that our work is saved, first of all. Then restarting our server, go back to node server. Let's refresh our browser. And let's try clicking on edit for Sally. And then let's edit Sally by adding, 222 at the end, 222 at the end, and then 222. And then let's click on update. And there we go. Sally has been automatically updated with our put request, and our table and our code works. So that is super exciting. Let's try the same thing with Sam. Maybe we can add 333, 333, and 333 at the end. Click update. And Sam has now been officially updated. Now finally, step number 43. We're going to now fix a glitch by adding a clear button. Now for the most part, our contact list app works. But if we play around with it, we'll notice that there's a glitch. If we click on edit and then change the information for somebody, like let's say 444, 444, 444, and then we click on add contact, this contact will be added. But if we click on edit for this contact, it's going to be the previous contact that showed up because this is the contact that we clicked on edit for. So we don't want that. That's going to make our entire thing completely glitchy. and so we can't remove this one, and if we try to edit it, it ends up with glitches down here. And so let's fix that before we close this project. So let's fix this by first adding a clear button next to our update button, which will clear the input boxes before we add a contact. So to do this, let's first add this clear button to our index.html file by adding this code right next to the th for the update button. We're not going to add a new column. We're just going to add a new th, or just add a new button next to the th. So let's add right next to here. Let's just add a button that says, we're just going to add maybe 2 spaces here. So MBSP, and then button class equals, we'll keep it the same as the button info. And this will be ng click, and we'll have the function be deselect. The button will say clear. So now let's refresh our browser just to make sure that it's working. So we have a clear button there. It's, the formatting is kind of weird, but if we open it up, it'll look a little nicer like that. And so now in our controller.js file, let's define the deselect function by writing this code underneath the scope.update function. We're just going to make it clear everything. So let's write scope.clear, or deselect, equals function, and the function will be to set the scope.contact to clear, like that. So now, first of all, let's remove our glitchy contacts by going to Mongo in our command prompt. Let's go to our contact list database, and then let's just type db, well, let's first show db.contactlist.show find. So let's just delete these objects right here. Let's just do db, let's just delete the glitchy one. So db.contactlist.remove, and we'll do name Sam 333444, because we don't want that glitchy one in our database. And so he will be gone. So if we refresh our browser, we just have Sally222 who works. Well, I just did that. So let's test our code. All we need to do is refresh our browser. If we type in Sally222, we can clear her. Now we can type in a new entry. So let's just do sam at test.com. Then it'll just do 999. We'll do add contact. And now if we click on edit for Sam, it will be Sam that shows up, not Sally. And now we can officially edit these to our as much as we want. So we can do 333 update, and we can add new contacts. Let's do that and remove them, and everything works great now, as long as we don't click on add contact before the clear button. So this isn't the ideal fix, but it'll work for us for now. This is where we're going to stop for now. You can play around with it, try new things, try to add your formatting, or maybe do different categories or something. But play around with it, get better at your skills. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.